And just like that, we have the second person from across the pond to appear on Wise Words with us here. Thank you ever so much, Eric, for jumping on. How the devil are you?
Well, I'm maybe not as hot as you, but I'm pretty hot over here today in Florida. We're today I went to the beach and it was just about 95 Fahrenheit. It's pretty warm, but really good.
It's about the same. It's about the same here. Just you
Wow.
guys have all the stuff in place to keep you cool, whereas
Yes.
we just have to sweat it out. But there
My
we go.
AC's plugging along great.
Yeah, we
Sorry,
don't need to
sorry
know
about
that.
this.
Don't rub it in. We don't need to know about that. Eric, your channel has been very influential for me in the respect of you are someone who's given out amazing advice to guys and girls, I suppose, if you just want to change your life, you want to look at it in a new way. And I think one of the most recent videos you did, if not the most recent video I watched, was about, or definitely about, you taking responsibility and accountability for your own life and wanting to make changes. The whole purpose of this podcast came about because my very first video that I put out was me talking about how basically, I'm not going to beat about the bush, how everything seems to be shit and I can't seem to get to where I want to be. Okay. And so the podcast was meant to be for me to then speak to interesting people to give me new perspectives on life, maybe gain some knowledge, gain some wisdom. And boy, do we have some wisdom with you. Okay. So, Eric, tell me a little bit at first, just so in case anyone doesn't know who you are, tell me a bit about your channel and kind of what the idea is behind it.
Sure. So I've really only been doing this for the social media thing for 3 months. I've been coaching for 3 years. I actually had a coach 4 years ago who helped me. Started out as a life coach, but I didn't like that. I wasn't getting what I needed. He switched to an accountability coach, which I hadn't really heard of at the time. And he just kind of helped me get my stuff together and help me organize things and get off the couch and just to help, just exactly what it says, to help hold me accountable. I did that for about 8 months. He said, "Okay, dude, you don't need me. Would you want to be a coach?" And I said, "I am a coach. I coach jujitsu, I coach MMA, I coach baseball when my son was young." And he said, "No, I think you'd be really good at this." I laughed at him and said no. And then I thought about it and I called him back and said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to send you somebody. You're going to coach them for free." I was like, "Okay." Which I did, and I loved it. And I said, "Send me somebody else." He sent me 11 somebody else's that I coached for 6 months for free. And I really, really, really enjoyed that. And so then right before he passed, he said, "You have a bigger path to help more people because you're younger," 56 at the time or 55 at the time. And he worked on me and he worked on me. Finally, I started the channel. I've only been on this journey on social media for about 4 months. And it's kind of exploding is the wrong word. I went from zero people looking at me to today on the live. We had about 10,000 people looking at me this morning on the live. So what I do is I have taken the mistakes that I had made in my life, my alcoholism, my divorce, the separation from my kids, my bankruptcy, my, sort of all of the things that I did wrong. And because I was able to find my part in every single thing that I did and accept the responsibility for it really quickly. And I don't know how much time we have, but I was divorced for about 6 years, and I would tell anyone who listened what a terrible situation it was and how bad life was to me and how bad my ex-wife was. And
well, you're going to be singing to the choir in this particular channel here because we have had many a person talk about this. So how bad was it?
So I'm going to answer that in a different way. 6 years ago, I would tell you stories. We would crack a beer I'm sober now, but at the time I would crack a beer and tell you stories that would just curl your hair. But today, the way I'm going to answer that is, how bad was it? How bad was I? Okay. I drank. I had businesses that I ruined. I drove my kids away. I ruined all of my relationships. How bad was it? It was pretty effing bad because I didn't do any of the things that my ex-wife or my kids or my business partners asked me to do. But the minute, sorry, not the minute, but soon after, um, my accountability coach was able to say, you know, your life is shit because you have no responsibility. Okay.
Mhm.
You talk about what your wife cheated, but you never talk about, and nobody made her cheat. So, first and foremost, you never one time have ever said, I didn't stop drinking. I didn't work hard in my businesses. I didn't work on the relationship with my business partner. You see what I'm saying? So, as soon as
Mm.
I got to that point where I answer questions, uh, I spent 6 years just loving to beat other people up. Like this dude, he screwed me out of this business, or you know, all of my energy. I was so good at it. I'm such a good arguer. You know, I also do jujitsu and MMA, and I love to fight. Like I grew up fighting, and I love it. But the problem is, until you can take full accountability for what you are doing, the first thing out of your if the first thing out of your mouth is, man, I sure had a bad way to go, everything, you know, why did this happen? And the minute you stop and say, okay, what do I want to be, and where do I want to be, and how am I going to get me there, instead of, yeah, and all that stuff is super shitty, it's awful, some of the
Mm.
things my ex-wife did to me, she is the king of, okay, great. And I would tell anybody who would listen, and they were like, dude, she's so awful. But I never once said, you know, she asked me for 24 years to please not drink.
Wow. So it was going on for that long, was it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I was 15, and I found a job where I could, you know, drink illegally, freely, and it just never stopped until they told me I was going to be on the liver transplant list. And then I drank a
Wow.
little bit more, had a heart attack. Anyway, so if y'all want to hear more of my accountability, you got to come. But today, to answer your question, is how did all this come about? It started with me finding a coach, finding someone who really, really did help me, who didn't let me off the hook, who made me focus on looking this way, stopping looking that way, and that every single thing I wanted was that way, but not until I took accountability, not till I started to work on myself and accept myself. I had to get therapy. You know, you don't see it in the videos, but I'm a very large guy. I'm about 6'4", about 240 pounds. In person, I'm a little, you know, but I've been my whole life this really, really big guy. Um, and it's not the most masculine thing to say, I need therapy. Well, today I consider it the most masculine thing that I have ever done, because I know who I am. I understand why I did the things that I did, and the things that I can't control. I have forgiven people who don't deserve forgiveness, because it's for me, it's for them. I could go on and on and on and on. So, um, the minute I started helping other people, I was able to really see what really the rest of my life was going to be. And none of that happened until I started to do the work. Um, Once you start to clear away some of the pain and some of the, you know, forgive yourself and stop blaming everybody else, and you start looking that way. But it's so hard. It's so hard.
I
I
can
mean,
imagine, because you're dealing with well ingrained habits, then, aren't you, that have been built in since childhood, I would
yes,
imagine. So,
100%.
although I would imagine giving up the drink was horrendously difficult.
Yes. I I don't know. I lost my dad, and my dad was 61. My brother drank himself to death at 49. My other brother at 61. My business partner, my dearest, closest friend, I watched him turn yellow and die in front of me. You know, there was no mystery to what I was doing.
Mm.
But for whatever reason, I had it. You know, I drank away all of the money I had, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I finally just said, you know, I can't. I can't. This was before I found the coaching. And so I said, I'm living in my hometown in the Midwest. There's nothing here for me. It's only, so I moved to the beach, and that kind of, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I did have my little dog that I took really good care of. And from that, I was able to kind of make a stand and say, okay, okay, I can't, this isn't working for me anymore. So the really, that was, after I had I drank myself into a heart attack, and I did, 1,000 million stories. But I finally was just like, look, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to fish, and an amazing thing happened. I've been promising myself for 30 years I would watch the sunrise the over the water, and I finally did, and it finally stuck. And I quit drinking 17,000 times, but I really quit drinking one time. So it was
And
so hard.
if you don't mind me asking, how at your peak, how much was you probably drinking a day?
So there's like 5 peaks, So I would say the worst was, I had just started to buy my businesses, and I no one had any control over me, none. I had plenty of money. I had 100% freedom traveling all over. I always had a bottle with me, and I don't mean a little bottle. I had a fifth, and then beers at night and wine. I would say a fifth of Tanqueray, which was my absolute favorite, maybe a 6-pack, and probably to go to sleep a bottle of wine. And that was a pretty well every. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Wow. Well, that's the thing. The thing with some addiction, well, all addictions, I suppose, is that they don't make sense. We know what we're doing, but we still, I mean, mine is food. Okay. And I can eat and eat and eat, knowing it's doing me no good whatsoever, and yet you still do it. And that is what people with addictions will do. So you would have known, you would have seen around you what the drinking was doing, and yet you would still go to it. And it's just mad, isn't it? Just addiction like that.
Yeah. And I had a beautiful wife and a beautiful home, beautiful kids, and none of it makes any sense. And I don't know. I still don't understand it. I just know that if I drink today, I'm going to die. So that's an easy thing for me to do now, but none of it makes any sense. And it's because I talk about it so much on all of my social media. I probably get 100 people a day asking me, how to quit drinking. How do you quit drinking?
Yeah.
I really need to find a good partner, somebody who's a specialist in that. We could certainly keep them busy, but anyway, yeah, no, addiction doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely. And yet, alcohol is a weird one as well, because where they'll tell you to just go cold turkey with others, you can't with alcohol. You have to taper it, because you can die just from going. So, I mean, I'm not going to obviously focus on this too much, but just to sort of finish off to do with the alcohol side of things. What did you sort of go through when you were starting that sort of coming off of alcohol?
So at the time, I mean, had I gone through rehab sort of at the top peak of my money and businesses and whatever, I mean, I would have flown to California and done it the right way. But at the time, I had $1.50 to my name, literally. And so I just had to be smart about it. So I kind of gradually tapered myself down. I first got rid of the wine, and then I got rid of the beer, and then I made that fifth go from once a day, and I gradually tapered down. I didn't really have any shakes because I was pretty strategic, and it took me maybe about 4 months to completely come off of it. And I was literally, as soon as I stopped the beer and the wine, I started feeling a lot better in the afternoons. But of course, then I would still get up and do my routine. But as I was gradually getting less and less, and strategically measuring the shots, I remember I got down to the last 4 days, and I was at 4 shots a day, 3 shots a day, 2 shots a day, 1 shot a day. And for whatever reason, I took that shot, the last 1 shot. It was so hard to do, but I did it for 2 weeks. I just couldn't give it up. But yeah, I like you said, you can die. And I was married to a nurse for a long time, and I understood that. I did a lot of research online, and the other part that nobody talks about was my blood pressure was so high, my diabetes was so bad. And as I was coming down this time and weaning myself off, I took my blood pressure several times a day. I took my sugar several times a day, and it was just like freaking magic. Like my blood pressure went
Wow.
from 200 over 100 to by the end that I was on the one shots a day, I mean, my blood pressure had almost normalized. So there was a lot of good things that helped me. And yeah, I don't have any stories about the shakes or DDTs or um,
Which is
I get,
great, which is great. And to really put a positive end into that section, what was kind of like one of the first things that you was able to really appreciate when you then officially came off of it?
well, um, you know, at that time I'd been here and I had a job. I don't want to talk about specifically, but I was a facilities
Mm.
manager, and I had a bunch of dudes that work for me, and I'm still friends with a lot of those people personally in my in my life, but by pretty much by the time that I was almost done weaning myself completely off, we had a staff meeting with all my guys and gals, and one of my managers that was right under me was like, "We don't know what's going on." I was like,
Mm.
"What do you mean what's going on?" And he said, "Do I have permission to speak freely?" And I said, "Of course, bro. You say whatever you want." He goes, "You're not such a big freaking asshole anymore, and we want to know if you got a girlfriend." I go, "No, I don't have a girlfriend. I'm not drinking anymore."
Mm.
So that was really I didn't really realize it. What a and again, I'm a big guy. I'm a little intimidating. I don't mean to be intimidating, but I'm just very in your
Just
face. I don't.
naturally, that is in your presence. Yeah.
Yes, and now things have really changed. The first thing I guess I noticed other people noticing that I was just a more level, very calm, very
Mm.
cool, very collected, and really as I kind of didn't get to enjoy that until somebody else pointed it out, and then I was like, wow, what a huge difference for me.
Absolutely. And obviously, you mentioned about therapy as well. And I think what's quite interesting is that you said, therapy is actually probably one of the most masculine things you can do. I mean, at the end of the day, you've taken then the decision of actually, I need help. I'm going to need to do something about this. This idea of masculinity and being a man and everything like that. I think, to be honest with you, that has got so watered down at the moment because nobody actually knows anymore. What does that mean to be a man anymore? What
Sure,
does that actually mean?
sure.
Um, and I do want to touch upon that. I mean, to you, because this differs from person to person, but to you, what does being a man mean?
So, without getting into any politics,
Mm.
in my personal life, let me just put it out there. I married an immigrant. So
Hmm.
you can just dial into exactly what I am. Having said that, for so many years, we have let other people say that, all masculinity is toxic. Okay.
Hmm.
And from someone who understands that point of view, I don't buy into it, but I understand why there are, uh, I mean, if I was a female who grew up in the 60s and I was always disrespected. I didn't have the right to vote. I didn't have control of my life. If I completely get that. But I was born in 1968, so I've seen the big swings and how we perceive things in the 50 genders and all of that. I love everyone, man. I really
Mm.
super super do. I don't have any racism. I married a brown lady. I grew up in a terribly misogynistic and awful KKK family. That's not a joke, okay? So my
Hmm.
perspective is really different than a lot of people, and I am also not afraid to embrace my masculinity. And part of me that was raised by my mother in the best possible way, I'm completely in touch with who I am as a man,
Mm.
and I embrace the feminine side of me, what there is of it. So masculinity to me, 5 years ago, if I had said this, I think we would be having a much people would have had a different um, reaction to it. Okay. Um, Masculinity to me is I was born bigger than most people, including most women. I accept the fact that most men are stronger than women physically, not emotionally, not with having babies. Not there's so many things that women are stronger and better and more important. But the parts that I can control, my physicality, the love of my family, the support, and the I feel not everybody. For me, my job as a man is to take care of my family and to protect them. On the other side of that, my masculinity encourages my family, my wife, my daughters, my sons to go out into the world without any fear and to if my wife wants to go and be with her friends or be with her family. I just sent her back to Colombia for weeks and weeks and weeks. Part of being a masculine male for me is loving, protecting, and letting your family go, giving them to room to do the things that they need to do, and not being ashamed of being a man. I'm not I consider it, which is weird because I've done a couple of these and people are like, man, you hate women. No, I don't hate women. I'm a feminist. I'm literally a card carrying feminist who believe that I'm completely equal with my wife 100%. Like I cook every meal, like I clean, okay. But being masculine to me and being a masculine man is being strong enough to protect your family, to love your family, and to also give them the room and the space and the love and support to do whatever they want to do and protect them, to allow them to make their mistakes and to be here and to be forgiving and loving. The most masculine thing that I think a man can do is to be able to do all of that stuff and to also be soft enough for them to be comfortable with you so that they approach you when they need you, and also to give them the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And I know that's kind of everywhere, but I really am a feminist. I really I have no problem with my masculinity, and it's so difficult now because like my 27-year-old son, it's just like he's like, Dad, like they're mad at me because I'm a guy. I'm like, buddy, he doesn't have the perspective of growing up in the 60s and 70s. He was born in 1997. I said, buddy, you just got to be sure who you are. You got to be strong. You got to be, the things that you do have to be, and you also have to celebrate women and understand how important they are and how many, many things they're better at us than, and be strong enough as a man and secure enough in yourself to let them do their thing. And that's what makes us great. Your strengths
Absolutely.
and their strengths.
The thing is like what I said to you before this recording started. I mean, my audience is 90% plus men that watch this because I think men are struggling. I think men are struggling with identity. I think they're struggling with what their purpose is, what their value is. Not because they've necessarily done anything wrong, because not every man has done something wrong, but what they've found themselves in, and something I put myself in that category as well, is that they've found themselves in what almost seems like a manufactured society, which says you're not allowed to be a man because masculinity is toxic. And so therefore men are going, well, what's my purpose then? What is the point of me then? And I think a lot of men are saying, well, I don't know what to do anymore then. What am I to do? And it's nice for you to sort of be able to tell me about, well, look, this is what I think a man is. This is what the point, because I think people are looking for those answers. They're saying, well, what is the point of me? But you'll also find that a lot of men are not these toxic masculinity people. They're quite happy with women. They recognize, like me, there's a symbiotic kind of relationship there. There's a partnership between the two. And it slots in very well. There isn't one that's better than the other. They worked well together.
Sure.
But you'll find a lot of men are not getting that message. They're getting very much of, you are less than, And so therefore that's why you get these groups of men who are just pulling away from society, moving into like where they live in by themselves. They don't want to engage with society.
Yes.
Is this something you're noticing as well?
100%. I mean, especially the younger guys, like the guys that I coach, and the people who comment on my stuff are mostly older. But again, my son and his friends, they get such a mixed message. They on the one hand, again, I'm not hating on anyone. I love everyone. Everyone is important and symbiotic and all the things you said. But like my son Brian, he's a giant guy. I mean, I'm a big guy, but he's a giant guy, and so he's getting the message that I don't care what you did. You're a man, so your masculinity just makes you bad. And so and so then they do exactly what you said. I've put this together so many times that they go, what in the hell are you talking about? So they're confused. They don't really have a lot of people to talk to. Maybe their dad's not in, or maybe their dad is not a good guy, or whatever. And so they just and they pull back, and they don't know what to do. One of the hardest messages that I especially because I do coach over the last few years, I have coached younger guys, and I'm like, dude, it's okay to be a guy. You just don't have to be an asshole because you're bigger than somebody. If because you're bigger than somebody doesn't mean you should be going around intimidating someone. It's one of the things that I encourage my guys to do is to go to like I'm a jujitsu person, and I tell the story a long time ago when I was still starting. I was a blue belt, and I was just still this really, really big guy, and I was at a sort of gym traveling, and I just popped in for a quick one night thing, and there's this small lady who came up to me. I mean tiny and brown lady. And she came up to me and she said, "Can we roll?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll try to take it easy on you." So everyone knew who she was, but I didn't.
No.
Her Wicca page with 13 world championships. She embarrassed me. She hurt me a little. She was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And then when we left, of course, she said, "Hey, thanks for taking it easy." I mean, I deserved all of that. My point being is that the guy, especially younger guys, and some older guys are confused, and all they hear is about toxic masculinity. Go to the gym, go to a place where it's okay to do two things. It is okay to be a man and get some testosterone going, and it's also okay for a woman that's this tall to beat the shit out of you and keep you in check. So it does two things. So,
absolutely. And it's a message that a lot of people are looking for. I think if we're looking for how have we got to this, there's obviously lots of different strands that leads us to this. I do think there is an awful lot of reasoning behind it because of single parents raising children, not having sort of male role models, dad's not around. Okay. And that's not to say that everyone who's got a dad around is going to grow up great, because you get deadbeat dads, you get pieces of shit who raise their kids and such.
100%.
But it's almost like an epidemic of children who've been raised without a male role model, and then you get these boys that are raised without them. They're raised by women who are doing the job of both, but sorry, a man can't do both job. Women can't do both job either. That's why it's a partnership. 100%. So they're only getting one perspective, but then they're not learning what it is to be a man from their dad or uncle or whoever the hell it might be. Do you think we've got a generation now of men that are like this because they've been growing up in these single parent households? Do you think that's contributed to it?
I do. I think there's a lot of that. And my transitioning from my full-time gig where I was around thousands and thousands of 14, 15, 16-year-old boys, I see it all the time. there is no male guidance. So they kind of make it up themselves. And I think, somebody who doesn't have that model at all, what are you going to model yourself after? Things you see in movies and stuff like that. I do see a lot of women doing an amazing job of raising these young men, but I think that's it. I think not only don't they have someone, but how smart and I don't mean this, I don't mean like smart intelligence wise. I mean, when all you're getting as a male role model is a super villain, or on television or TVs and movies, and it's just a tough way to go, and which is why I always encourage people, guys, to go into martial arts or whatever it is, to kind of go to a place where it's really okay. And hopefully, because there's a lot of real big macho buttholes, but then there's always the quiet guy, and then I hope that it balances out and they can see kind of what. But again, I'll say it again, I see many mothers who do an amazing job, but there's just as many women who cannot fulfill that role. And so the young kids today, and the young 20-year-old guys, if they just hear they're bad because they're men, it's a rough on them, and I feel kind of bad for them.
Absolutely. So. And so obviously with your coaching that you're now doing, and what kind of themes are you getting from your clients so far? What seem to be like the most common sort of themes?
So I was going over with the guy that helps me run my social media, and that sounds really hoity-toity, but it's not. Just somebody who understands, because I'm so new to this. We break down the comments. Well, he's got something, he can filter them down. Last week, he got something incredible, like 20,000 comments on TikTok alone. And I ask, I say, what is what are we hearing? What's first, the number one thing is, Generation X is not going to be able to retire. They don't have any money. The next thing is that and I hope it's okay to say this, but they're just done. They don't care if they die. They're ready to die. They're okay. So go to my coaching, and it's kind of the same thing. And the thing that I hear over and over and over is, I'm too old. I'm too fat. I could never, I'm never going to find anybody. It just hurts my heart to think that, and I mean, I'm talking about thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, I only talk to maybe 10 people a day is the most I could really have an intelligent interaction with, but that's it. It's 70% men, 30% women that I coach. And really the thing that is the hardest for me to get people to kind of buy into is that, I mean, I have a picture. I wish I had bought it, not because I want to see. Not because I want you to see me, a picture of me when I'm 300 pounds. But that was it for me. I was too fat. I was too old. I was never going to be in jiu-jitsu. I was never going to. And from that, I've completely rebuilt my life, and I found my wife and my business, and all of that. It's over and over the thing that people think that it's too late. And it's just it's a heck of a thing to have a 40-year-old woman who just went through a divorce, and she's like, it's over for me. And I'm like, so this one needs to go to a therapist. So 30% of the time I'm like, please go, you can hang out with me, but you really need to go. So yeah, it's just, there's so many people. And I think it started around COVID, when we had to shut off for a long time, and they get shut down, and they've gained weight, they've lost a job, they lost a partner, the biggest hurdle and the thing that I hear most is that it's just too late, and it's just not.
Because before I even started all of this, I contemplated, and actually it was musings that I had during my first video, which blew up, about me talking about my situation. And one of the things
I saw that it was very, very interesting. I got something out of that. Thank you.
That's right. Very good. One of the things I said was, well, I'm too old to do social media. I'm too, because obviously all I'm thinking of are your Mr. Beasts, this people like that. People aren't interested in people like me and our age and all that. I'm starting to eat my own words, I will admit.
Isn't it great?
It is. But something that I definitely was talking about in that video essentially was I wasn't expecting to be here at this point. So I'm now 42, and when I envisioned myself at 42, probably when I was in my 20s or teens, I pictured house bought, or at least mortgage, marriage, children, holidays, better job, and so on. Haven't found myself in that position. And yeah, I got some interesting comments, to be fair, about saying, wind your neck in, get on with it, but I still feel like I'm of a generation. So I'm very early millennial. So sort of I'm just past the Generation X, early millennial. We're in that weird kind of bridge between people who, like they would say, you owned a house, you had a car, you did this, you did that. When to these now points where you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to retire, because am I going to reach the age of retirement for a start? Because they keep pushing it back where we are all the time.
Sure.
So therefore, to me, I'm not following a script anymore, and the script seems to have changed, but nobody now has told me what the script is. So that's why someone like myself, I feel lost, because I'm now like, well, this plan that was set out for me was made by somebody from a generation behind or two, and now it doesn't work anymore. So who's now got the script? Because I haven't got it.
You just described 29% of everyone that I've talked to in the past bit. And for me, the interesting part was that the script that was written for me was somebody who would go to a payphone. And now I can pick up AI, and I completely convinced within 1 week I can have a completely different career online, doing stuff, paying my bills, doing other things. So yes, all the things you said, yes. How crazy of a time is it? And the thing about it is that for me, I met my wife 3 years ago. We've been married 2 years ago because she didn't speak English. I was no hablo español. But today we have a mixed.
Meet in the middle. Yeah.
About 3 months ago, I said, I want to get on TikTok. And she was like,
yeah, all right, granddad.
Exactly. I have a 16-year-old grandson. And she said, just go to work, please go to work. So yeah, I mean, my life has changed in a way that you can't measure it. You cannot. There's nothing in my life that will look the same. I would say in about 1 year, I will stop all of my other side gigs and everything else, and I will just do social media. And I am nearly 60. So when you say you're 42, dude, when you're 60, you might be doing this shit on the moon. I mean, I'm just saying, how cool would that be? Anyway, I completely understand your the idea of your perspective. I don't have your perspective because I'm not you, but I completely get that. The fact that 20 years ago, I was going to retire off of a lot of money in my beach house. And then to go from that to, here's the thing though, the thing needs to be for you and everyone listening, and in me, really, really, just because your life ebb and flowed, and I'm seeing like when I was homeless and I didn't have any money, to go from there, and I don't need to be in a penthouse. I don't need for people to say, look at me. I don't need any of that. What I need to do is to have a safe place to take care of my wife and I, and have enough to live on. We're moving to Colombia in a couple of years. We have, a different plan, and all you need is 6 months. If you're breathing, if you're walking, if you're able to put some thoughts together in 6 months, you never know. And you just said it's so different than what you thought. It's insanity. But also, if you can at least have enough faith and guts to kind of change your perspective, and meanwhile finding a way to pay your rent while you're getting there, It's been a hell of a ride, and I can't even believe that we're having this conversation in the best possible way. My son thinks I'm
Absolutely.
absolutely bonkers.
Absolutely. So if you had somebody, let's say you got a blank slate, you've got somebody who's watching this who's like, I'm sick of my life at the moment. It's not that I'm homeless or anything like that. I'm at a point where I'm bobbing along, but I'm not progressing. And if
Mhm.
anything, obviously with inflation, everything's getting more expensive, life is getting harder. I don't want to carry on like this. What would you say would be some of the first steps to immediately make sort of quick steps to just make that change towards something better?
Okay, so the first thing is that I don't know the numbers in Britain or anywhere else, but in the United States, 75% of people are overweight, pre-diabetic, sick. Okay,
Mhm.
high blood pressure. So the first thing is that when you have all of those things, it is very difficult for you to A, to start, to B, to have any sort of understanding of where you need to be, what really are the things that you can do, which is why my business is so much, so many more inquiries every single day. So the very first thing that I say to every single person is that if you're not in shape, if you do have medical stuff, and like I said, it is literally, for me, it's probably 90%, because people that are
Mm.
seeking me out, they have
Yeah.
issues and they need to get stuff fixed. Start walking, walk every single day. Like when I started years ago, I literally could not walk around the block. Okay, so every single day I worked a little farther, walked a little farther, walked a little farther. Now I'm 300 pounds. I don't have any money. My blood pressure is through the roof. I'm an insulin dependent diabetic. I mean, there's literally 10 things about my life. And if you're sitting there, um, so if you have a big mountain to climb, that's one thing. But if you're talking about the regular guy or gal who's just kind of bobbing and beeping
Mm.
along, you're probably overweight. Maybe you smoke. Maybe you're a drinker. Maybe you have a food thing. So many of the people that I work with do. The first thing is you walk. You walk 7 days a week. Okay. After a while, if you'll embrace that, small changes happen. Second thing is you gotta take the junk out of your mouth somehow. I don't know what it is. If you're a vegan, I was a vegan. I weighed 310 pounds. I was the fattest vegan on the planet. That didn't help me because I could eat all the bread I wanted. But so
Something's
so
not going right here.
you
What's
know what
going
I
on?
mean? So you got to learn, figure out how to walk every day. And then I fixed my diet a little bit, and those two things really, 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 the fog starts to clear.
Do
And
you
you,
think that's because when you're walking, your brain is going through things and maybe you're dealing with issues or ideas and all that as you're walking potentially?
I think that's part of it. I think, but personally, for me and the people that I work with, I think when your blood pressure comes down, when your
Mm.
sugar starts to regulate, when your body can feel, I mean, the weirdest, and I'm writing a book, the weirdest thing that I hear is that, and it's going to be, I haven't got the title of the chapter, but feeling weird. I mean, the people go from just, in this place where they are, to they don't really know how they're supposed to feel. They felt so bad for so long, but I think mostly, it's just that their body is a machine that starts to remember what it's like to function at or almost normal. And so when your brain is not constantly, your blood pressure is crazy high, when your sugar regulates, you're able to the fog kind of goes like this, and you're able to go, wow, okay, instead of I'm going to get home, I'm going to have a beer, I didn't have a good day, I need a cigarette, I don't really want to think about it. Once you kind of get to that point that you're walking, that you change your diet, and then you start to feel better, you feel weird for a long time. And like the most common thing, every single person I've ever worked with is, I just feel weird and I don't know if it's good or not. I mean, that's going to be really a big part of the book. So
Mm.
once they've done those few simple things, and then they want to do things differently, they're when their workout becomes their reward instead of their punishment,
Yeah.
They don't need me anymore. And they start to think differently. This is no longer okay. Bobbing along, barely making it's not okay. And little things. The trick is you can get somebody in 6 months to change their life, but the big trick is how do you get them to stay that way for 10 years? Maybe you and I will figure that out and we'll die billionaires. But right now,
Well, yeah,
small
absolutely.
small steps.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the one of the things that are really affecting people, especially with, I mean, Christ, look, we've had the things going on with Iran and so on, which then affected fuel prices and everything like that, on top of what was already a cost of living crisis anyway for a lot of
Yes.
people. Finance seems to be the biggie for people, because, as people will say, if you haven't got the money, you can't afford the things you need, and so on. Are there any kind of, I mean, do you have any tips for people in terms of what they can do to start generating more, or maybe being more savvy with what they've got?
Yes. And this is not, I'm not a financial planner. I am a guy who blew hundreds of thousands of dollars and was broke. So, when I moved to Pensacola, I didn't have a dime. Okay. I saw a little ad in one of the, back in the day, 5 years ago, back in the day, but I saw a thing for plasma. First thing that came to my mind is, oh my God, there's homeless people, there's bad people, bada bada buddha. Well, $600 a month. Okay. I cannot tell you how many times I have suggested plasma to middle class people like me and you, working people who are just too good for that. And I don't have better words than that. And I'm always like, so you're good then. You don't have a money problem. You have a perception problem. The perception is that you're too good to go down there and get your, and it's 2 hours a week and it's $600 a month. Okay, I can't do anything for you. Literally, I've broken up with clients.
I'd sign up for it. That'd be good.
My wife and I, who are completely middle class, of course, we both have 9 jobs, but we pay our mortgage with plasma.
Wow.
Everything else we make, we keep. So that's the first thing. A lot of people don't live close enough to a plasma center, but if you're too good to give plasma, me and you are not going to have another financial conversation. Sorry, it is what it is. The second thing is, we try to make it so difficult, and we'll watch some TikTok or some viral guru guy about how you just need to send me $10 and I'll get you this plan. There's a way to pay your credit cards. It means you just have to spend less money. You got to spend less money, tear up your credit cards. You got to earn more money. Okay. I flip furniture. I'm an expert furniture flipper. Every month I make about $2,000 flipping furniture. I go take stuff, drag it off the ground. Oh, I don't have a truck. I don't know how to do it. Go rent a U-Haul. Go pick up something free. Take it home, clean it, offer free delivery, rent another U-Haul. It's very simple. Take credit cards. Okay. So there is no excuse. You have to figure out a way to generate more income and stop spending so much money. You work on the weekends. There's always Uber. There's always delivering food, Walmart. I mean, the question is not, can I have a conversation with somebody about how to generate more income and spend less? The question is, are you going to shut your mouth for 5 minutes and hear me out? Of course, I don't coach people that way. I want to coach people that way, but it's so simple and we want to make it so difficult. If I was a young person today, and I love Gary Vee, I don't know if you know who that is, but I love this dude. He's one of the most famous entrepreneurial guys, and says it. He doesn't care. He's a billionaire. Burn your credit cards, flip furniture, go to a yard sale, buy something, look it up online, put it on eBay. Nobody has an excuse to be broke now. Nobody.
And especially with AI, that seems to be a tool that I don't know if people have really grasped yet. But I guess the thing is that people, if they do know it's there and they could use it, it's then having that idea of, well, what could I use it for? If you see what I mean. So they know it's a tool, but what's something I could do to use it for to make money? You see, it's that creativity then to find of something.
The funnest part for me is being almost 60 and a guy who really grew up very poor and having no technology. I first got Chat GPT a couple years ago. Really wasn't great yet. It's great. It's pretty good now. But today, if you got Chat GPT and you paid over here in the States, it's $20, and you say, how can I generate extra income? It's going to give you 50 things. Okay. And then you can say, and people my age are like, it's going to send to Elon Musk my social security. I'm like,
he's not interested in your social security, for Christ's sake.
No, but the AI is it's life changing. It's one of the first 10 things I sort of introduced to my people that I coach. It can be so easy. It can be so fun. So if you type in how to flip furniture, okay, it actually says this. It tells you to go pick up something free, go get a U-Haul if you don't have it, to clean it up, to offer pickup and delivery, to take credit cards. You're 90% ahead of everyone else. And if you pick something up for free and you clean it, and that's all AI. I didn't make that shit up. I just listened. I put it in there a couple of years ago, and then AI is heaven to me. Heaven.
Absolutely. And I just think, like I said, it's a resource there. But then, of course, everyone's watched Terminator 2. That's what everybody thinks is going to happen. And like, what a
great movie.
I know it is, but where do you think, I mean, not to go down that rabbit, Warren, but where do you think this ends up? Because do you think people generally got a valid concern about it?
How do I say this without getting canceled? I think for people my age, I'm just not going to say anything. Okay. Yeah. But I do think, I hope that the younger generation that's coming up will be smart enough to make sure that all of those things are not going to happen. And I think they're using AI to create ways of combating and controlling AI. Where does it end? I don't know. Like I said, I hope you and I, in 10 years, you're like, hey, bro, let's go to the moon and have dinner. I mean, you never know. I do understand the concerns. And it's so funny. Today on the live that I did this morning, I told a really quick story. Hope it's okay to tell a quick anecdote. My father in 1980, I remember, he turned on the television in our 2 channels, and he was looking for the temperature outside. I don't know why. And I said, hey, dad, call time and temperature. And this thing where you call the bank and it would give you the exact time and the temperature. He's like, what is that? So I dialed the number because I did it so many times, and I gave it to him, and he hung up the phone. He nearly had a stroke because he was like, how do they know? And that was it. His technology days were over. He didn't trust anybody and all of that. So, I don't know, man. I've always embraced technology, and I do understand some of the fears that I think some of them are valid. I hope that we are smart enough not to make the mistakes, and I don't know that I have the intellect required to understand what that would take, and that's okay. Your generation and your babies, if you have them, are going to hopefully regulate that. To be honest with you, I'm not looking at it like a 60-year-old guy. I'm just looking at it like somebody who's hopefully not too crazy. I'm a little worried about it, but I think there's so many good things that come from AI. I'm just going to roll with the part that I kind of understand. My old man AI is one of the guys that I roll with in jiu-jitsu. He's like, you're over there on your old man AI again, aren't you? And I'm like, yep. So,
do you know what I've noticed with ChatGPT? GPT, see if I get it right, has made me realize what it must be like to be an overpowering wife. And I'm going to explain that for you. Because basically anything I say on there, right, where I will, let's say, for example, I say to it, make me an image for a thumbnail, okay, for a video. And I go on there and it produces this thumbnail for me. And then I write on there, yeah, I really like that. What do you think? And it will go, yeah, it's really good. I like the layout of it. But I can then say, well, actually, no, I've changed my mind. I think it's awful. And then it's like, Yeah, I agree. It is awful like that. It just feels like this simpering this husband battered down. Yeah, yes, love, yes, it is. Yeah, no, just like, oh, I'm getting used to this. I like this sort of
The reason I'm
dream.
laughing is because this is something I've done a million times. Like I'll write a script for an episode and then it'll change something, which by the way, I write word I
Mhm.
comes out of my mouth, I write, but I do correct grammar, and sometimes I'll take an idea from ChatGPT. So the other day, I don't remember what it was. I really spent some time. I think it was on the death of my best friend when I was 17. I wrote it, like, took me 2 days. And then the only thing it said was that, this opening bit, this hook needs to be stronger. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, do it. So, and I changed a little bit of it, but I kept the idea. So I did the episode and I fed it back through, and he was like, AI was like, well, everything was good except for the opening. And I was like, you did
told me.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it with thumbnails before, and it's gone. Yeah, I don't like what you've done here, and I've gone. I didn't do it. You
You
did it.
did it.
Oh, right, okay. It's just like it's this dementia husband who just just
Yes.
disagrees with you or just can't remember anything.
Isn't
No,
it crazy?
I think it's mad. I think modern life, though, I think it is something that there's different ways to look at it. And I think a lot of what people have been talking about and things that I've been saying is all about perspective on things, how you're looking at everything. Because what a lot of people will say is modern life is making people miserable. Okay. Is that the case, or is it just your perspective, do you think, on how you're perceiving everything? And maybe you should change it.
So I have an interesting perspective on it, because when I was married for 23 years to an amazing, awesome woman, we're obviously divorced. We spent so much time trying to convince other people that we were just extremely happy.
Mhm.
When the reality of it is that we didn't have anything to do with each other the last 8 years of our marriage. I think that we saw other people doing the same thing. We saw their success. We envied it a little. We coveted it a little. The friends who were in Paris every other week, and then a year later, you found out they were bankrupt. I mean, the ability for an attractive woman to get 5 million inboxes on so many different platforms. There's just so many different ways that we are allowed to be in touch with different versions of different people. We spend an inordinate amount of time trying to impress people that we don't know with money that we don't have. That is complete bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a very interesting question. And then, for my generation, it's Facebook. So all of the bad stuff. But then I found a cousin I never met and people I went to
Mm-hmm.
high school. You have to be in control of, excuse me, the things that are important to you and how you present yourself to the world. And I think by my age, if you haven't kind of got that dialed in, you're never going to. I think people that like my son's age and my daughter's age, who was 36, and people your age, you can still struggle with it. Has it made it more difficult for us? I don't know. It depends on how you've dealt with it. I have a buddy who's my age who's never owned a cell phone, and
Wow.
he's
Wow.
he's our one of the black belts that I roll with, and he's just the calmest, sweetest, funniest. His wife adores him, his kids adore him, and I was like, dude, you need to go somewhere and get studied because it's incredible. So I don't know. I really do think it's about your perspective and how grounded you are, and if you're really, let me say it a different way. In a coaching session yesterday, I explained to one of the women that I work with, I said, if you spend as much time um, working on your marriage, working on your business, working as you did, trying to pretend or make things up on Facebook, or not make things up, but put the best side of it on
Yeah.
Facebook. I mean, you look at her Facebook, and that's one of the things that one of the things I do. It's incredible. She is the most unhappy, hates pretty much everything, but she looks amazing on Facebook. So
that is something that I really want to touch upon, because I think social media has taken something that you see when I was growing up. I don't want, I dare use the words in my day, in my day, the big thing used to be beauty magazines, because there was no social media at the time.
Sure.
Beauty magazines were causing teenage girls to end themselves, because it was this idea of, I don't look like that. Look at all these beautiful people, and we don't look like that, and neither did they, because they were all airbrushed, these images, which, as it then turned out. And I think social media just came along and thought, those are rookie numbers. Let's rank that up 100%, because everyone's account on social media is a wonderful life. It's an amazing life. Oh, I've been here and I've done that and I've been this. And I don't know if you've ever seen the film 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams in it. It was probably one of the few films he did where he wasn't a comedic character in it. He was actually, well, depending on how you look at it, he was a bit of a madman. He worked in here's one for the kids, a photo development place. Okay.
Right.
And his kind of narrative on it was, he'd look at all these photos and he'd be like, you look at these photos and you see that the birthday parties, the celebrations and all that, you don't see all the bad things that are happening, all the arguments and things like, people don't take photos of things like that. And that just applies to social media as well. And I think people, especially now, there's more platforms, celebrities, people who are just making incomes from being online. For me, it's difficult because it's portraying something that isn't reality. Nobody's life is that good. And if they are, they wouldn't be on social media. They'd just be living it.
It's at
the end of the day. But I don't know if people have quite figured out the difference between the two, that what they're seeing isn't just, it's an element of smoke and mirrors. I just don't think people have seen it.
Part of me, the asshole part of me thinks that people just don't care. They just whatever. I know it's not real. I don't care. It's like the whole political thing. You can't. Again, I'm not going to talk politics, right, left, center, whatever. People just don't care. They just want to see what they want to see. They want to show the world what they want to show, and I think part of that is okay. But I honestly, I don't know how healthy that is for us. There's like I said, I found a blood relative. I love this person, and it's amazing. And people I went to high school with, and somebody who recently passed, right before he died, he sent me this thing. He said, you did something nice for me in high school, and I bawled like a baby. And there's just nothing more pure than that. It's like going back to 1984 when this little kid was getting beat up, and I went over and took care of business. And it's the best part of social media. And there's so many good parts of it, but there's so much that's awful. It's so much that I used to, like 7 years ago, I would go, and I would get on Facebook and go, a simple Google search, and then people attacked me. I'm like, the claim of whatever it was, and I would Google it, and I'm like, okay, dude, you're arguing about, and then they're like, well, you're arguing too. I'm like, okay, y'all ain't in the same reality that I am. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know. My perspective has changed since my wife nearly died to come to America to live the American dream. And her take on social media, like if I'm over on the phone for more than 5 or 10 minutes, she's like, don't you have something to do? Because in the real world, that's definitely first world problems. But I don't know. We could talk for a long time about social media. If you had to put me on the spot and say, is social media good for you or bad for you? I would say it's 55% bad for you, honestly, because they don't regulate it. There's no truth in it. But hopefully we're strong enough and smart enough to go, okay.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely. Eric, I want to thank you so much for coming on this. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here and
Thank you so
for you
much.
to pass on your wisdom. For people who are watching this, where can they find you? Because I want you to be able to promote everything you do.
Thank you so much for that. So let's see. My moniker, my starting over at 57. That's where I'm at. My big thing is TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I mean, pretty much all of the big social media gigs I'm on, but mostly it's TikTok, and I go live every morning. That's the big thing, and that this seems to get bigger and bigger every day. I'm in Central Florida, Central Standard Time, and I go at 5:30 every morning, 7 days a week. I take a walk with people. Y'all take a walk with me, and I am a coach. I'm an accountability coach, and people ask me to work with them, and I've been pretty successful with that. I love helping people. It is the most amazing part of my life. I'm so grateful that I found that. And it's starting over at 57. And thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit.
No problem at all, brother. Thank you ever so much. And everyone who's watching, thank you for jumping in. If you too, like Eric, want to be a guest on the show, please get in contact with me. My email address is in the channel description. Eric, I would love to have you on again at some point. I think we should make that happen. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you all again soon.